Not only is Rocky Balboa one of the most iconic characters in cinematic history, Balboa's story is one of the best underdog stories to be told on the big screen. In all, the Philadelphia boxer has appeared in 8 movies spanning 42 years, but which Rocky movie is the best? That's exactly the question we're going to answer here today. Hello, I'm Christian from 1 Minute Critic for FilmIsNow. Back in the mid-70s, Sylvester Stallone made a breakthrough in Hollywood with a little film he wrote about a small-time boxer that gets the opportunity of a lifetime. That little film earned Stallone an Oscar for Best Picture, followed by 6 sequels and 2 spin-off films. His character Rocky is one of the most iconic and relatable characters in cinematic history, and his movies have been the source of inspiration for generations of audiences. Now, each of the movies have their strengths and their weaknesses, but only one can be the undisputed champion. So if I were to rank all the movies in the Rocky franchise, this is how I would rank them from least favorite to favorite. Starting off at number 8, Rocky 5. This movie was released in 1990 and is written by Sylvester Stallone and directed by John G. Avildsen, who directed the first Rocky film. Rocky Balboa officially retires from boxing after suffering a brain injury as a result of his fight with Ivan Drago in Rocky 4. He's forced to move back to his old neighborhood after losing his entire boxing fortune and starts training a promising young boxer who ultimately betrays him and challenges him to an unofficial street fight. Now, this movie is widely regarded as the worst in the entire franchise. It's so disliked by Rocky fans that it ultimately killed the momentum of the franchise, putting it into a 16-year limbo. It does have some good moments, but overall it's pretty forgettable. In fact, I sometimes like to forget to watch it when I'm binging the entire Rocky Balboa franchise. That brings us to number 7, Rocky 3. This is the third installment and was released in 1982 and was written and directed by Sylvester Stallone. After winning the heavyweight title, Balboa is pulled into the glamorous life of wealth and fame. Balboa defends his title several times and is ready to retire for good until the number 1 contender, played by Mr. T, challenges him and beats him. Balboa trains to regain his title back with the help of his old nemesis turned best friend, Apollo Creed. Now, I really like this movie for a lot of reasons. It's very emotionally charged and has probably the best and oh-so-80s training montage in the entire franchise. It also was the first major feature film for Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. And now, number 6, Rocky 2. This sequel was released in 1979 and is the first Rocky film to be written and directed by Sylvester Stallone. After gaining national popularity following his fight with the world champion Apollo Creed, Rocky falls on hard financial times. Soon after getting married and with a baby on the way, Rocky soon realizes that the only way he can earn a living is by boxing professionally. Meanwhile, Apollo Creed demands a rematch to prove to all of his doubters that he is truly the better fighter, eventually taunting Balboa into a rematch. This installment ups the ante and puts more on the line for Rocky, but ultimately it just gives him more motivation to win. In this movie, the rematch between Apollo Creed and Rocky is one of my all-time favorite fights in any Rocky movie. Now coming in at number 5, Creed 2. This was released in November 2018 and is the newest in the franchise. This one is written in part by Stallone and directed by Stephen Caple Jr. With Rocky still in his corner, Adonis becomes the heavyweight champion and is challenged to face the son of the boxer who killed his father in the ring, Victor Drago. Now, besides the fact that this movie basically has the exact same plot as Rocky 2 and even a lot of similarities to Rocky 4, the decision to bring Ivan Drago and his son back into the series was such a great call. It was so awesome to see old Rocky and Drago stare each other down one more time after all these years. I literally got goosebumps. And the number 4 spot goes to Rocky 4. This movie was released in 1985 and was written and directed by Sylvester Stallone. After regaining the heavyweight title, Balboa is finally living the good life and has become great friends with his one-time nemesis Apollo Creed. That's when Ivan Drago, a new fighter from the Soviet Union, emerges and challenges Rocky to a fight. But Apollo Creed comes out of retirement to fight Ivan instead in an exhibition match. And in an effort to avenge his fallen friend, Rocky challenges Drago to a heavyweight title match on Soviet soil. Now, a lot of Rocky fans are divided on where this movie should rank. Some have it higher and some have it lower. But for me personally, this movie is significant because it was the very first Rocky movie that I ever saw. The near impossible odds that Rocky faced really made a lasting impression on me. And that brings us to number 3, Creed. Released in 2015, this is the 7th film in the series and is the first spin-off. It's written and directed by Ryan Coogler. In this movie, we're introduced to the long-lost son of Apollo Creed, a young man with a long history of fighting. He decides to commit full-time to boxing and recruits his father's best friend, Rocky Balboa, to help train him. And when the boxing world catches wind of his true identity, he is immediately challenged by the current world champion. Now, I'll admit, I didn't expect it, but I loved this movie. It was such a nice change of pace and perspective in the Rocky franchise. It's not often that a baton is handed off to a new generation in the film series, but in this case, I think it works really well. And the fighting in this movie is without a doubt some of the best choreographed and shot fighting in any of the Rocky movies. And my second favorite Rocky movie is Rocky Balboa. This sixth installment in the series was released in 2006, 16 years after Rocky V. More than a decade and a half has passed since Rocky retired from boxing. His life is much different now, with the passing of his wife Adrian and his son growing distant from him. Balboa is now focused on running a small restaurant in Philadelphia. But when a computer-simulated boxing match between Balboa and the current heavyweight champion sparks curiosity, Balboa realizes that he has not lost his fighting spirit and has one more match in him. Now, I realize that most people won't have this movie as high as I do, but I really connected with this film. The movie has a much bigger heart than the majority of the films, and in my opinion, Stallone gives one of the finest performances of his entire career in this movie. The overall message is so inspiring, and the film serves as a perfect finale for the iconic boxer. And it's pretty obvious by now that my favorite Rocky movie of all time is Rocky. Released in 1976, this film was written by Sylvester Stallone and directed by John Avildsen. It's the film that started it all. It's the spark that ignited a highly popular and successful film franchise that has inspired generations of moviegoers. It tells the story of a small-time boxer who seems to be going nowhere in life. And by chance, he's picked at random by the world champion Apollo Creed for an exhibition fight, giving him a shot at the title. The opportunity gives Rocky the chance to prove to those closest to him that he is not worthless and has the eye of the tiger. Rocky not only inspired audiences, it received 10 Oscar nominations in 9 categories, winning 3, one of them Best Picture, and remains one of the most iconic sports-themed movies in history. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and that's why it tops my list of Rocky movies. Well, that's it. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree with my list? I'd love to see how you would rank the movies in the Rocky franchise, so go ahead, drop your rankings in the comments below, and let's discuss. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Once again, I'm Christian from 1 Minute Critic. Feel free to check out my channel. I do 1-minute movie reviews, ranking videos, and other movie-related content. The link is down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching Film Is Now, and we'll see you next time.